So, Kim Tay, you're gallery director of the Artling. Could you tell us a little about your organisation and introduce yourself as part of that?
Sure. So I'm Kim. I'm the gallery director of the Artling. We're an online gallery and art consultancy based in Singapore. We recently opened a private viewing space in Shanghai, so that's kind of been ongoing for the past year or so. We launched in 2013, so we started as a purely digital platform, as an e-commerce kind of click and buy system for art pieces, and since then have expanded our offerings to end-to-end consultancy services, working with private and corporate clients around the world.
And how have you responded as an organisation to the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, as an online platform, we were uniquely placed in that we were kind of already set up in terms of cross-border commerce and being available to a wide audience online. So that was something that was helpful. Of course, there were challenges, of course, with cross-border commerce during this pandemic, but we managed to kind of, let me restart. We managed to work within our existing kind of structure and try and support our artists and designers as well as our customers in handling shipments and artwork sales across the globe throughout this period. We already had our online system set up, so for artists and designers, they can list directly online and they have complete control and management of their own portfolio on the website. And for buyers, it's simply a cart system where they can just check out directly and get the shipping costs for the items to their location.
And so in many ways, you were well set up already, being a digital platform to sort of cope with the challenges.
We were well set up, although there were some challenges again with logistics. So that's something that we struggled with the most, and I'm sure many other online galleries or even offline galleries face that challenge. What we had to do was, where we initially were receiving a lot of artworks in our space, in our office in Singapore, we had to shift that and just put in place a very stringent policy in terms of images and condition checks before any of the artworks were shipped out, because we were no longer able to receive and check and do our quality control directly in the office.
I see. So the whole operation essentially went to working from home, as they say.
Yes, and we were already set up. I mean, the entire team works on the cloud already, so it actually was a relatively easy kind of transition moving from the office to working from home. I would say the only thing that we're really missing is that face-to-face interaction with the rest of the team and being able to brainstorm and come up with ideas in terms of combating the current situation. It's always better in person.
Indeed. And Kim, what do you think worked in that formula and what didn't, and how did you evaluate the difference?
I think it's tough to evaluate when it's still kind of an ongoing situation. I think what we did do well in, or I hope that we did well in, is in terms of offering the platform up to new artists and designers. So we saw a 30% increase in listings during the worst stages of the lockdown, and that's just with artists and designers realizing that they no longer have these physical spaces that they can show their works in, and they need to be able to get that exposure online. And because we already have the platform set up, it was easy for us to offer that to young artists and designers that were struggling at the time. And I hope that that's something that helped them along the way, and they were able to get more sales through the platform as well as more exposure.
That's interesting. So the artists immediately perceived that as the way to go.
Yeah, I think it was very quick. Not just artists, but also galleries. I mean, a lot of brick and mortar galleries have always been quite unsure, I would say, of listing online and selling art online. A lot of them list on platforms but don't necessarily have their prices listed. I mean, the art market is notoriously opaque, and it's very difficult to get any information about artworks and artists if you're not kind of already in the scene in a way, or at least that's the image that it gives off. So we had a lot of galleries also coming to us and now trying to find out what our terms were for listing and how it would work in terms of them shipping to clients that come through our platform, etc.
I see. So do you envisage further adaptations for the recovery period, or let's hope it's a recovery period over the next year or so?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always trying to innovate and come up with new ideas. So when this happened, we started to push a bit more of our augmented reality feature, which is specific to our mobile app for the App Store. And that's something where buyers can actually envision the piece directly on their wall, so they can go through any artwork on the site and kind of place it on the blank wall that they had. We have that. We launched a view in my room feature, which is kind of building on the augmented reality, but if you don't have an iPhone or if you don't want to give access, I guess, to your space, you can just upload an image of your space and place the work that way. So we're always trying to innovate and come up with new ideas on how can we make the art buying experience as seamless as possible. And that's on the buyer side. And even on the seller side, how can we improve our artist profiles and give them a bit more exposure, and how can they have more ease in managing the system that we have and uploading their artworks more easily than ever.
That sounds very promising. You said that you lack the face-to-face interaction between the team. What about the face-to-face interaction between the staff and the clients? I mean, how have you begun to build that in, and would you count that as a success?
Well, we have an online chat system like most e-commerce platforms, so that's how we generally interact with clients. We can still do phone calls. Again, as an e-commerce platform, there's limited kind of interaction that you have directly with the clients face-to-face. For our consultancy projects, that's been a bit more of a challenge, but we have already been managing projects from our Singapore office, but projects in Australia and China, in the Maldives right now. So we're used to kind of having these Zoom calls with large teams and having to interact that way with clients. But the main thing that I would say we're missing is the team's kind of interactions with each other.
Yes, indeed. And I would have thought that your business, some of it from what I can see of the Artling, seems to be oriented towards clients who would buy artwork for their homes. And given the amount of time that people have been having to spend at home because of the crisis, have you noticed any sort of uptick in interest? That people are now focusing on the domestic space more because essentially they're in more.
Yes, absolutely. So I think in the years that we've operated, the consultancy side has been about 50% of the business, but the online sales during the worst stages of the lockdown, when every country was kind of shutting down, that's when we saw the biggest increase in online sales that we've ever had. So that was it was a pleasant surprise for us, but I think it really highlights the need for art to uplift and kind of inspire during difficult and challenging times. We had clients from all over the world that were coming to us to find pieces for their living rooms because everyone's working from home, so they want something nice to look at. And something also to support the arts community. I think that was something that's been quite nice to see in terms of, we launched Art in My City program, which was meant to support basically local buying. So we used to focus entirely on Southeast Asian art, and then we've since expanded in terms of the artists that we list on the platform, but that's also come with its own challenges. And with limitations in flights then causing increases in price for shipments, it was very, very difficult for us to actually have cross-border shipments for a long period of time. And so we had this local buying and local support kind of campaign that was for buyers to support the artists in their own community and buy art pieces or design works that were from artists and designers in the same city, and having these artists and designers just deliver directly to the client and seeing that kind of support, that was quite uplifting.
Indeed, gosh. So would you envisage the future changing radically over this period, or do you think most of the changes have already occurred during, and as you've so well described, over the past pandemic crisis? Would you envisage those changes further taking place, or new developments, or do you think
for our own platform or general?
Well, within your business and your business in their context, the general context of the art world, or do you think that we've reached a sort of new normal?
I don't think that we've hit the kind of end point in what we're seeing in terms of shifts online. I think that the galleries that are listing with us are also listing different types of works and different types of artists, and it's all appealing to a different kind of clientele than I think existed before. Having the online platform has meant that the pieces that we have on the website are accessible to a far wider audience, and I think that art will have that kind of broader exposure in the coming months as everyone is shifting online and trying to tackle the pandemic in the best way that they can.
Very interesting. Are there any closing thoughts you'd like to share with us about your experiences and the way that you've personally dealt with this crisis? Do you feel that you've developed and learned and in a way, I mean, that quite a lot of talk about, obviously there's been massive tragedy, but at the same time there has been learning by many organizations and individuals and self-development and so on. Yeah,
definitely take it as a learning experience, otherwise it gets a bit too depressing. It's been good for us, I think, in being agile and being able to move quickly in the new ideas that we have, and how do we move as fast as we can to ensure support, that we're supporting our artists and designers in the best way that we're able to. But I think that it also kind of I think it also highlighted to us that we are on the right track in terms of already being an online platform, and that is the way forward. And so we're hopeful that we'll be able to keep growing in the years to come.
And do you think artists have felt similarly about it, that it's been difficult, but they've become more agile or learned different methods and modes?
I think they've been forced to become more agile, or more open at least to selling their art in different ways. I think that for artists and galleries, it can sometimes be that they feel quite precious about the works that they're selling, which I completely understand, but there is a way to still tastefully sell art online without it becoming too much of a commercial buying platform, I would say.
And then finally, the clients. I mean, do you feel that there's a kind of a change in willingness to engage with the digital platforms rather than sort of face-to-face gallery interactions?
Yes, I do think so. I think that previously, I mean, obviously there are very different levels of clients across our business. So we have the e-commerce client, and then we also have our private and corporate clients. And the biggest change, I would say, is the private and corporate clients who can no longer have that FaceTime or even being personally taken around the art fairs as we used to do. So they're more open now in terms of being able to see the pieces, and if necessary we'll help them kind of envision the pieces in their space through different technologies, and being able to have them have all the information that they need about the artwork without being there in person. So multiple high-res images, all the artist's background. You actually get a more in-depth view of some of the artworks than you might have before when you were just wandering through an art fair.
Indeed. Well, and certainly your platform provides that very interestingly. I'd recommend anyone goes to check it out. Well, thank you very much, Kim. That's been a very thorough insight into some of the necessary changes, and I wish you all great success and your team in the future with the Artling.
Thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time on a bank holiday.
Yes, it's soon to evaporate into a busy term time, I think, so grabbing that last little bit of family time. So
enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you very much, Kim.